What's up, Change the Channel podcast listeners? My name is Megan Grace, and this is another episode of Change the Channel podcast. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a part of myself that just made herself known this week. It's a fascinating process of being a person as we grow, because I really deeply believe that we are the sum total of every age we've ever been. So sometimes working through or deciding to grow or being in a time of transition might actually, in my experience, awaken a part of me that was a younger part, a younger piece, maybe the first time that I'd ever really encountered something. And what I'm learning is that oftentimes those pieces have something to say. And so if I'm in a time of transition, if I'm wanting to elevate a part of my life or even grow because I want to, not because I have to, there's generally those parts of me that need to be tended to. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about, introduce her. She's been very, very vocal this week and wants to be a part of the conversation. So this is me honoring my 9-year-old self, my fourth grade. Just this part of me emerged because I learned about my environment, my fourth grade classroom. I'm going to transport you back to my classroom. In fourth grade, I was definitely a tomboy. I wanted my hair short. I wanted everything to be as much about sports and activities, and this feeling of kind of stepping into almost the power of just my body and physicality. And so I used to play, basketball on the playground, and in my classroom, we, for whatever reason, it's kind of just a bad luck of the draw, I like to say. We ended up with, I would say, at least 5 or 6, fellow students, I would say, so my cohort, that had pretty intense emotional needs. I think they were either being neglected, not treated well at home. Of course, I was 9, so it wasn't like I was privy to this information, but it was so evident all over the classroom. I mean, from outbursts to throwing things to, sometimes my teacher would place me next to someone that was struggling because she could tell at that point that I wasn't struggling. And I remember going home with bruises on my shins because this person that was sitting across from me just really enjoyed randomly kicking me. All of these things they were perplexing, and it kind of just created this sense of consistent chaos in the classroom. My poor teacher she was a great teacher too. She had a lot of vibrant ideas. She was really kind. She would try to redirect in positive ways, all the things. But the classroom was just constantly in chaos and imploding. And what I'm learning about myself is my 9-year-old self that was learning to be, feeling a sense of strength within my physical form, and also witnessing that the leader of our classroom was essentially always under attack. She wasn't able to move the classroom forward in specific ways because we were constantly in crisis management mode. And I remember there was one specific day that my 9-year-old self noticed my teacher during lunchtime. I think everyone was just doing things. She had gone back to her desk and she just had her hands like her head in her hands, and she was crying. She was crying quietly, but I could just feel in that moment that our classroom had become entirely too much for her. She was feeling defeated. She was feeling down. And in that moment, a part of me was born that felt like it was my responsibility to take care of the feelings of adults. I felt that with my parents some, because my parents aren't necessarily overly connected to their feelings. So I had some practice at this, but being able to, or feeling the need to do it in the classroom, really started this new sort of awakened side of myself that felt like if I was going to get my needs met, I needed to always take care of whoever the leader was, or make them feel good, or smooth the environment, or else I wasn't safe. As a classroom, if the teacher is supposed to be in charge of everything, and if she's over here with her head in her hands crying, rightfully so, but who's driving this bus then? How are we getting to the next thing? There was this primal understanding of leadership was not able to lead. And so the only way to be able to help and handle this was to prop her up. So I became the best little student. I would work so hard to need nothing from her, to show up and tell her in as many ways as possible that she was doing a great job, and that I was lucky. I was so happy that she was my teacher. And I remember just being placed next to kids in the classroom that needed help, would stand up to bullies, especially for this one kid that they were constantly picking on him, and he didn't have a voice for it, and nothing gets under my skin more than that. So it felt like I had been sort of drafted into this, into this role. And as a 9-year-old, what I'm learning now is this pattern follows me in my other opportunities and things, like when I get into communities, or when I, pay for coaching, or when I decide to be a part of any cohort. My primed nature is to support and care for and uplift the leader. And while that's an incredible gift, I'm grateful for it. This 9-year-old part of me the other day got so angry and was like, I don't want to be this way. I wanted to be a kid. I wanted to be seen and celebrated in the things that I did well. I wanted to not feel like the only time I got attention was when I was telling the teacher that she was doing something well. I wanted to feel curious and safe and just be 9. And so now what I'm noticing is when I'm interested in being a part of a community, those well-worn paths of being the unofficial supporter of the leader come rearing to the top of the surface. And then she gets her feelings hurt really easily if the leader doesn't notice, if the leader didn't need someone to help them, if the leader just simply wanted to, be the mentor or leader that I had hired them to be. And instead, I would go into this pattern of, I need to make sure that you're safe so that I can be safe. It became this hypervigilance. And so I want to talk through a little bit about how I talk to myself and that part of me when she shows up. So step 1, I noticed the other day that in a cohort or group that I was in, I had said something in a group chat that was coming from this part. This 9-year-old was like, support the teacher, support whoever it was that was talking, let them know they're not alone, show up, be visible, do the thing. And I did. And I noticed that nobody really responded to what I said. They responded to what other people said. And the thing is, it's no one's job to respond to me. It's no one's job to tell me I did a really good job for posting something or for being vulnerable. It's their job to be in the container, growing and learning themselves. And so what ended up happening is this 9-year-old part of me, when she came up and her feelings were hurt, like, oh my gosh, I'm not being seen again. I'm not being seen again. What I do is I sit with her and I say, I see you. Me as the adult, grown up, 40-year-old version of myself, I can now look back at the 9-year-old that was scared in that classroom, that just wanted someone to witness her and to be excited with her and to play with her and to listen to her deep thoughts and curiosities. I can hold my hand on my heart space and put another, I usually like on my belly because I can really feel myself breathing. And I just close my eyes and I bring to my mind's eye that 9-year-old part of me. And I tell her, I see you. I'm listening. What else do you want to share with me? And so kind of as this would move through, first off, she oftentimes feels a bit resistant. There's the, wait, how do you see me? What are you looking at? What do you want? What do you need? And when I feel those kind of resistance come up, then I say to her, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. How are you feeling? And then, I might feel I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling abandoned. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling shut down. I say, I see you and I hear you. What are you making that mean about you? That you are abandoned, overlooked, shut down, lonely, whatever the words are. I ask, what are you making that mean about you? And that, my friend, is usually the crux of the moment where the tears kind of start coming or it comes back online. I've ended up in a codependent moment with myself around getting affirmation or attention from people. I've made it mean something about me when people are not paying attention to me. And it's subtle and it's under the surface. And it wasn't until this 9-year-old part decided to show herself to me. And I realized not only did she feel overlooked, but she also felt unsafe when she wasn't noticed. And so as I keep breathing and I say, okay, what are you making that mean about you? If people are not seeing you, if you feel overlooked, unnoticed, or lonely, then she might answer, it means that I'm unsafe, or it means that I'm unlovable, or it means that I'm broken, or it means I'm a problem. I pick which one of those sends a little bit of a chill up my body. You can also feel muscles tightening, your sphincter tightening, your jaw tightening. It's those kind of like constriction moments that we try to keep things in as opposed to let them out. So I take a deep breath. I relax from my jaw, my neck, my heart space, all the way down to my sits bones and my sphincter. Just let everything just kind of hang in a different way. And I ask her again, what are you making that mean about you? And then as she says, I'm making it mean that I'm going to be unsafe and that I'm somehow unlovable or unimportant. Then I tell her, I look at her and say, what would you like me to see? What do you need right now? And when this came up, I was like, well, this 9-year-old part that was showing up wanted to know that the vulnerable post that I had posted was visible, that my story was not a waste of time, or that me sharing about some past trauma that had happened to me wasn't boring or over, unimportant. And so I tell her and ask her, what part of that post do you want me to look at first? Tell me the part that feels the most tender, the most fragile, the place you're feeling the most lonely, and I'll start there. And even saying it in this moment, as I'm breathing into it, I can feel the little bits of water forming to the sides of my eyes. This practice is so powerful because at the end of the day, all of these parts, like my 9-year-old self, my 4-year-old self, my 16-year-old self, when all of these parts come up, they're coming up for a reason, because they're a part of our well-equipped and potent team that is meant to keep us both safe and thriving. So I sit with her and I think about each of the vulnerable things about myself that I had shared in that post. And whether it was, different pain from a relationship. I'm going to be intentionally vague because some of these topics can feel triggering to even hear them talked about. So imagine for you, if you were to write down some of the things that had happened in your life that either made an impression, or they were kind of those pivotal moments for you. And if you shared them out loud, and if they didn't feel seen, then in this moment, as the 40-year-old self, I get to witness it for that younger part of me. I get to step in and be the adult that my very exhausted, overworked, emotionally drained teacher could not be for her. And I can release myself in that way of being an overly mature 9-year-old. I can allow that part of me to play, to feel curious, to try things on, to, lean into the more athletic parts of me. I get to stop being the unofficial caregiver of people that don't even know that I'm doing it for them. I get to choose intentionally who it is that I serve and that I love on purpose. So it's less of this coming from this, codependent need to keep me safe. I'm teaching my 9-year-old self that she gets to exist. She also gets to grow up. And so after I do this exercise of witnessing each of the shared things that she put on that paper or in that group chat that didn't feel like people acknowledged, then I say, okay, thank you. Thank you, brave one, for sharing these parts of you. Now, I imagine myself sitting down on the floor, closing my eyes, holding her hand, putting our heads forehead to forehead. I say, with your powerful imagination, we can go anywhere in the universe, the galaxies, wherever, or on planet Earth. Where would you like to go? And I allow her to choose. Maybe it's the beach. Maybe it's a mountain. Maybe it's, flying amongst the stars. Maybe it's an imaginary place. But I tell her, we're going to go to a place where you can feel safe to be a kid, where you don't have to feel like you're the adult. And so in this moment, I'm imagining that she's chosen the beach, and it's a warm, sunny day, and I can imagine laying down a blanket on the sand. You can hear the waves kind of lapping up. There's people laughing in the background, seagulls making sounds. The waves are crashing. You can hear kind of the sounds as somebody witnesses a dolphin that's kind of cresting. In this moment, she gets to be a kid. She's not in the scary classroom anymore. The teacher we can trust is taken care of, is safe, and has moved powerfully past that moment. And so this 9-year-old part of me gets to also. And as I spend time visualizing and imagining what it would be like with me as my 40-year-old self and my 9-year-old self playing on the beach together, I stop being afraid of her too. I stop being confused about who she is, and I start to witness who she is, notice her. And wow, when that part of me is noticed, she blossoms. She smiles differently. She holds tension in her body differently. She's able to grow up. And she's also able to be a kid. So the steps with this process, when you start to feel big feelings come up about something, anything, whether it's from work or a relationship or a desire for a relationship or, fill in the blank. Step 1 is to put your hand on your heart space, hand on your belly, connect to your breath, ask the space how old you are, and allow your mind and your eyes to sort of soften as your eyes are closed, and trust that the age will come to you. You'll either see maybe an image or you'll get sort of a feeling. Maybe there's someone else in your sphere that you've noticed, like a kid or a friend's kid, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know what it is about them, but I all of a sudden start feeling a certain kind of way when I'm in their presence. That can be a sign that maybe when you were that age, a part of you, a protector part of you was born during that time. And that's what we're managing. That's what we're offering love and care and support to and nurturing is your protector self. And so we ask the age, then we ask, what do you need? Or depending on what the words are that are coming through, you can also ask, what am I not seeing? What do you want to show me? You can also ask, how do you feel? And then as soon as one of those things brings something to the surface, then you can start down this pattern or this practice of saying, okay, so I hear that you're afraid. What are you afraid of? And then when she says whatever the thing is, you can say, okay, so that could happen. And if that happens, then what? And then you can kind of sit with that for a little bit. And then what happened? And then if that happens, then what? And then as you kind of write it down, you'll get to a point where you start to get to the meat of the mission, I want to say, or the meat of what it was that you were told in that time, or the anchored belief of your protector self. And once you get there, ask it, what are you making that mean about you? And that's usually where something cracks open. It's like, it means that I'm unlovable. It means that I'm a problem. It means that I'm unsafe. It means I'll be overlooked. Pick the word that makes you either feel like you need to hold back some kind of tears. You get like a physical sensation where it feels the most uncomfortable. And then ask that part of you, like invite them, close your eyes, imagine that you're holding the hands of you at that age and say, I am here now And we are going to care for that exact need that you have because you are worthy of being seen. You're worthy of being shown up for. You're worthy of being heard, witnessed, loved, celebrated. Pick the word that feels the most alive for you. I like to imagine myself closing my eyes, holding that little one's hand, and then you start to offer that little part of you exactly what it is that she needed. And it is so freaking powerful and healing when a part of you that has been just famished and thirsty for love in that way finally gets their need met. For me, when that happened, I felt actually a release in my hips. It started to open up all of these spaces. It felt like it sort of started this domino effect of looking at all of these different relationships that I'd been in with people that I saw as teachers. And I assumed that if I just cared about their needs enough, that they would care about me. And when those were not reciprocated, those were some of the most painful, confusing situations because it actually felt like they were harming a 9-year-old girl as opposed to a 40-year-old with a fully formed like prefrontal cortex that can understand logic. A lot of these painful places go back into the part of our brain that hasn't fully been formed as an adult. And so we can't see things through the lens of logic. It just hits those emotional spaces. That's why it feels so big. And so now I'm on mission to sit with myself about all of those times and all of those teachers that I showed up for in big ways because that's who I thought, well, that's just who I am. But in the act of doing so, this 9-year-old part of me was hoping to just feel belonging and safe. And she needed something more than I even knew. So when those other people were not able to fill that role, it felt like I was back in that 9-year-old classroom or that 4th grade classroom, and everything was falling apart and it was up to me and it was sort of a thankless job. I hope this helps. As I'm sitting here and I'm recording this podcast, I have my eyes closed. I'm holding my own hands, imagining holding yours. Imagining holding the younger version of you that is finding big and small ways to get your attention. Whoever he, she, they are, I just want to speak to them for a minute and say, from one adult to you, you matter so much. This world is forever changed because you are here. You're not just one voice in a sea of many voices. You are powerful, playful, curious, important. You are loving, and lovely. And who you are, exactly as you are, matters very, very much. And there is an adult that's in the room listening to this podcast that is taller than you were before. They're able to reach the top shelf in the kitchen, or, find something to be able to stand on to reach that. They drive probably. They are working in different spaces, and they now have new skills and new tools to be able to meet you in the needs that you have. Because your needs were never too much. Your need to have the things you're asking for is not the problem. Right now, you have an adult that is interested in powerfully changing the channel of their mindset regularly and on purpose, so that they are the safe adult that you have always been craving, that you've been waiting for. You, dear one, grew up to be an amazing person. And the two of you get to find this dynamic, this powerful, potent dance of caring for, reparenting that part of you. So now I just love to invite you to imagine, or you can even wrap your arms around yourself in a beautiful embrace, a hug. Feel your fingers like digging into your muscles, like squeeze deep. These parts deserve deep contact because it's deep work. And then cross your arms the other way. Give yourself another hug. Take a few deep breaths. Welcome home, little part of you. Welcome to the scene. Welcome to the conversation. We are listening. And that, my friends, is another episode of Change the Channel podcast.